Hey, it's Norm from Tested.com. I'm here outdoors today. It's so sunny, it's so hot, but it's the perfect weather to fly some quadcopters. I'm joined by Raphael Pirker, and you are well known in the quad flying community, known as Trappy. That's your handle.
Exactly.
With Team Blacksheep. So thank you so much for making it all the way out here. You live in Hong Kong right now and running a company building quads. Well, you've been flying for how many years now?
I've been flying for about 12 years now.
12 years, wow. What was it like even 12 years ago with quadcopters and that hobbyist scene?
Actually, quadcopters didn't exist back then. So the quadcopters came in like 8 years ago, pretty much. Before that, we used flying wings and basically the same technology. So video camera, video transmitters, and just regular commercial off-the-shelf remote control airplanes.
And then ramping up to 4 or 5 years ago, the technology really got ready. IMUs were cheaper. People were building flight controllers. The firmwares got better. Everything got cheaper, and video quality got better. So you're really well known in Team Blacksheep for the videos you shoot. You've gone all over the world. You've shot in San Francisco in our backyard, but also London, Austria,
Dubai,
Hong Kong, Dubai.
Everywhere, yeah.
Tell me about some of your adventures and what it was like shooting there.
I mean, it's pretty cool. Every time you come to a new place, it's really a big challenge to find out like all the RF stuff that's going on, any kind of interference. Every country has its own regulations and laws that you need to abide by. But also, I mean, it's just great to see different sites and not having to pay for the entrance fee.
Right, and back then, not many people knew about the hobby or
Exactly.
knew what was going on. So when you would launch to go up along the Big Ben, for example, did people care?
The Big Ben was already a little bit later, but for example, if you take the Statue of Liberty shot that we did the first time, nobody even knew that drones existed. So we actually got stopped by a park ranger, and he just asked us to land a model aircraft. And we were already on the way back, so we landed it, and he didn't even know there was a camera on it, and he didn't think that we were just flying over the Statue of Liberty.
That allows you to do some pretty daring things. What's some of the more fun things you've done?
The most fun thing we've done was actually flying down the Matterhorn. The Matterhorn is a 4,000 meters, about 12,000 feet high mountain, and we launched from all the way down the valley, flew up with our flying wing, and just buzzed down the ridge at like almost 150, 160 miles an hour.
Wow. And it's surprising me because you did all that kind of crazy stuff, and it was something that seemed pretty innocuous that got you the most attention with the FAA here in the States. Can you tell us about what happened?
Yeah, I mean, the reason why I got attention is because it was a commercial shoot. So back then, the FAA maintained the position that commercial use was off limits. They actually just reinterpreted a statement that we invalidated, so now it's again off limits. But that's why I got into trouble. And I guess the shot that got me into the biggest trouble was flying down the tunnel with the cars inside. So pretty closed off set, but yeah, what are you going to do?
Right, and that's a very strict definition of the commercial use.
Yeah.
Right, for example, if we're using this and shoot a video and post it on YouTube, for example, they might not go after you, but if there's transactions happening, that's when they're going to start regulating. Yeah. And because of this lawsuit and because of all the stuff, you won it and then they overturned it and then you guys figured something out. The FAA most recently provided their guidelines. What do you feel about those?
I think it's a step in the right direction. For example, we were fearing that there would be no weight limitations because they are regulating small unmanned aircraft systems up to 55 pounds. But they actually introduced a mini series or a mini class that's 4.4 pounds, which is pretty, your regular Phantom will fit inside, like a Discovery Pro will fit inside. All of these the most used quads used by the general public will fit inside, and there's relaxed rules for that, which makes just a lot of sense in my opinion.
Right, so you think some of the guidelines, flying during daylight, under 500 feet for the commercial flights, and the tests that you have to take, the certification, not getting a pilot's license, but getting certified by an FAA-approved agency, that seems reasonable.
It's definitely a step in the right direction, and I mean, this is just a proposed rulemaking, right?
Exactly.
So now
change.
we have the opportunity to comment, to suggest some differences. For example, I don't know why we shouldn't be able to fly at night. The skies are more empty at night. We can see the quads perfectly fine at night with the LEDs and everything. So, this would be something for people to recommend to the FAA to consider.
And something that's maybe more applicable to your hobby is flying with FPV. What's the appeal of FPV, and what do you think FPV brings to flying and videography and racing that flying by sight doesn't?
I mean, it opens up an entirely new dimension, right? You're no longer restricted to where you are. You can fly pretty much anywhere you'd like within the legal guidelines. And it just puts you into the pilot seat. So it's more of a video game rather than looking at your plane and seeing how it flies or shooting videos commercially.
You mentioned a video game, and a lot of people, a lot of viewers out there, they want to get into FPV flying, they want to get into quad flying, and the barrier to entry is pretty low right now. You can buy an RTF kit, maybe some of you guys sell, and fly that day, but that's not really recommended. What we've recommended is people, try with the micro quad maybe, right?
Exactly.
And then learn the basics. So what are your hopes for emerging FPV flyers? What do you think they should know to be safe?
Well, my hopes are that the American Model Association, the AMA, that they are a little bit more welcome to FPV flyers so that they can start like a training program, have somebody on site that can teach people how to fly. I think it's in the works, but it's not quite there yet. So, that would be something that would be really cool because, I can come here, I can show you how to fly, and you can fly FPV within, let's say 2 or 3 batteries. So I think that would be a great initiative for the AMA to consider.
And maybe, that might turn some people off the hobby without some proper guidance. Right?
Yeah,
we want to get more people learning the proper way and then having fun with it safely.
Exactly, yeah. And by giving somebody a guidance, you also kind of give them pointers at what's really not a good idea to do. For example, like flying into airport traffic, or like the guy did in Istanbul, flying over in a busy airport or stuff like that. Generally, if you talk to the guy, you can convince him that it's not a very good idea to do.
Is safety for you more about a balance between your limitations rather than like a broad definition of safety and recklessness?
Totally. It doesn't really matter that much where you fly, it matters how you fly. So if you have knowledge over the air traffic, it could be perfectly safe to fly amidst amidst flying aircraft. At the moment, we don't have the equipment to do that, so that's why it's not really safe. But other full-scale aircraft fly among other full-scale aircraft all the time, and that's perfectly safe. So I think the technology is just not there yet, and we have to work on that. And maybe someday we'll be able to fly cross-country with drones.
Now, with your experience flying for 12 years now in aviation, model aviation, one form or another, you guys have started producing your own quads.
Exactly.
And you have one today. This is your Gemini model?
Exactly. This is the TBS Gemini. It's our first almost ready-to-fly kit built for FPV racing. So this comes pre-built pretty much. All you have to do is glue in the tabs and then bind it with your transmitter. So the barrier to entry on this model is quite low.
And it's built not for necessarily shooting videos, but for racing, right?
Exactly.
So can you tell me about design considerations? Because this isn't a quad. This is, this is six props, 6 motors. Why 6?
We made a hex because it looks really cool, and because we were able to shrink it down in size just a little bit. So this one can go into your hand carry luggage without problems. But the main design consideration that we made is the forward tilting motors.
Okay.
So if you look from the side, it will actually hover leaning back. And once you fly forward, the frontal face of the hex which minimizes the drag and increases the efficiency and the maximum speed. And also what it does is it allows you to fly at a high speed without looking at the ground.
Got it. Right. So that's all the design of the airframe, which is your own custom design, the angle of it.
Actually, most of it is custom design except for the props and this antenna. So we buy this one off the shelf.
Can we pop it open and
take a
sure.
Look?
Can you tell a little about the flight controller and how you designed it?
Okay, so this is the flight controller, and it's built like the entire frame, it could just be snapped off. So like this. And you could, if we later come out with upgrades, you can just replace that.
Modular.
It's very modular, yeah. Same thing for the ESCs. These are actually just soldered in from the bottom. So they'll all stack up really nicely. 6 ESCs for 6 motors. And this whole entire board pops off so that you can do repairs really easily, or do replacements. If you crash during a race, you're probably not going to start repairing. You're probably just going to pop on another board and just fly with that. And this is the video transmitter. You got the on-screen display, the OSD, so that gives you your battery status, your flight time. It's a pretty basic OSD because you don't really need that much for racing. And then that's your FPV camera.
And you also, like your security cam, analog.
Yeah, this is a regular 600 TV lines analog video camera. And on the bottom, you have space for the battery.
And that's your, this is not the same shape of the battery that I've seen on some other, 3S batteries, and everything is designed with consideration that you want to keep it as light and as compact as possible.
Exactly. We chose a very flat and a wider design for the battery so that it can have a less profile from the front.
Now, when talking about efficiencies, right? Designing this for max speed, you want low weight, right?
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
You were telling me earlier, every gram that you add here affects the speed by a known quantity.
Yeah.
Right.
Especially the flight time. So every gram you add translates to 1.5 seconds of flight time.
Okay.
And at the same time, like if you corner, the more mass you have, the slower it's going to turn. So this one here, I actually kitted it out for you just for racing. You can add a Mobius camera to the bottom, and that means you need to change this plastic piece right here, and then add like a vibration isolated Mobius camera holder.
So you have a local camera, $80 HD camera.
Exactly.
That can record micro SD, but also get the analog signal back to your Fat Shark goggles or something.
Exactly.
So how configurable is the software, is the hardware?
The software is extremely configurable, but this will come factory pre-tuned. So it will work right out of the box. If you want to change something, you can. The ESCs are not configurable. So these run Simon K open source firmware, and actually Simon K modified this for us. Like if you land in tall grass, it's going to cut the power after, I think it's 10 seconds, so that the ESCs don't burn out.
And you said it's tuned for racing, but there are also different modes.
Yeah, I mean the Horizon mode makes you look like a pro because as soon as you let go, it just corrects perfectly. So it's a great way to learn how to do like the crazy acrobatics tricks that people are doing on YouTube nowadays. The ultimate mode is your rate mode, which is kind of a manual mode. That will give you the ultimate speed and ultimate maneuverability, but it's obviously just for experienced operators.
Are these available soon or now?
These are already available since about 4 months.
Okay, so you can go Team Blacksheep, your website, to check them out. Thank you, Raphael, so much for coming out, showing us your Gemini and teaching us some FPV racing. And then we'll get to a demo and see you guys in the skies.
All right, let's go.
Let's go.
3, 2, 1, go!